Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me on this awesome Saturday evening. So this is going to be our live Saturday night show. If you're new to my channel, welcome to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. I'm a Western and evolutionary astrologer, and on Saturday nights we do live readings. We alternate between tarot or astrology, and this week it's going to be all about astro. So if you want to hang out and watch and learn a little bit about astrology, please do. Equally, if you would like to get a reading or if you would like to donate, you are welcome to do that by checking out right down here. There is a QR code. If you scan that on a phone or anything like that, you are going to automatically be taken to my PayPal where you can make a donation. I ask for $40 donation for a question for anything in relation to your astrology, whether that's your transits, a natal placement, anything of that nature. And we also have Synastry, so if you want to ask about compatibility between yourself and another person, get some insights as to how you guys relate to each other, it is a $65 donation. If you do happen to make a donation, please just let me know. I'll be checking the PayPal as I go, but I'm going to be doing readings in order that they were received. And it's just important that you let me know if your name differs on your PayPal versus your YouTube. So sometimes there can be a difference between those two. Apologies, I've got a doggy in the room right now, so you guys might hear him. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Also, just a heads up to those of you guys who are my members and you support the channel, and if you are a level 3 member, that's the benefit of being that membership level. You are going to get one reading once a month. That is live on the channel, so you can either get one 3-card reading or you can get a question about your astrology transits. So we always take the level 3 people first. So if there's anybody here from level 3 that would like to cash in on that this week, let me know. Just a heads up before I forget, I just want to make sure I remind everybody, we are going to be having the live readings the next week on Friday the 15th instead of Saturday. Usually it is Saturday, but that's not going to be happening this week. So join me on Friday the 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern if you'd like to get your tarot reading. So just give me a heads up. We also have the chat, so if you have questions or you want to interact or you want to tune in, please do. It would be lovely to interact with you guys, even if you're just stopping by to say hello. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what we've got. I know we have somebody that popped in the PayPal already. Let's take a look here. Okay, so we'll see if anybody else pops in, but I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Kelsey. So Kelsey, I need to get your information. So if you guys are going to be making a purchase, this is the information that I need looking at your horoscope. I need to have the exact day, month, and year, the city, state, and country, and I need to know the time. So whether it's AM or PM, I need to know that information before I can do a reading. When I cast your chart, we're going to do it publicly, so I'm going to put it on the screen so people can kind of follow along and get a feeling for how I came up with what I came up with, and they can kind of see how I'm coming up with these interpretations and looking at the transits and what's activating. So if you can please give me that information, and to keep the process moving tonight, when you guys make a purchase or a donation for your reading, please put all of that information in the memo. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to move on to the next person so we don't keep people waiting, but hopefully Kelsey is here. In the meantime, she did ask me a question. She said, I'm just wondering, since I do not have any degrees, 20 degrees and up, is that a good or a bad thing? So hopefully I can get that information from you. There it is. Thank you very much, and I will answer your question. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna put your chart in. Okay, so 3/28/2000, and that was at 3:57 p.m. Melrose Park, Illinois. So you're asking questions about not having planets over 20 degrees. If you are just new to learning astrology, everybody's going to have different interpretations. So I would say don't get weirded out about what you have heard. that does not necessarily mean it is a good or a bad thing. Okay, good and bad is all relative. But if you lack having planets that are going to be over 20 degrees, in so many ways, it tells me you're learning more about like the decans. So each zodiac is broken up into thirds. So we've got 0 to 10 degrees, 11 to 20 degrees, and then 20 to 29 degrees of each sign. So we have 0 to 29, which makes 30. So usually when we look at the planets in the decans, the first 10 degrees or so is very personal. It's kind of like a more adolescent energy. It's very fresh. It's new. It more so deals with like you personally in your personal relation to the planets or that planetary energy. The second is going to be more socializing, and it's going to be about how you're using those energies, anything over 10 degrees to about 19 degrees to just interact with other people. Anything over 20 is going to be kind of like more so amplify that energy, develop. So kind of think like something that's growing, right? It's developing into that kind of mature sense of the planet. So no, it's not bad, but I do think that it is kind of saying, for the most part, just looking at your natal placements, 12 degree Pluto, 18 degree Moon. You've got Uranus at 19, you've got Mercury at 10, Venus at 19. Yeah, your sun's at an 8, but Saturn's at 15. So, everything is pretty mid-range. So you're going to be dealing with planets in the mid-range, which is it's not bad at all. If you happen to have planets that are 10 degrees or below, or something at 0 degrees, it's just basically saying it's something that you're learning to kind of integrate into this lifetime. Really great question. I love that. I actually teach astrology. I'm in the process of teaching beginners astrology right now, and I'm just getting into, in this next week, talking to the students about planets and signs, and also about like working with the different decans. So good question. General overall reading. Well, I'm looking at some pretty big things that are going on in your natal horoscope. I guess probably one of the biggest is the fact that you do have a lot of planetary transits going on through your 6th house right now. So if you look at your 6th house, the cusp is 15 degrees of Aquarius. The 6th house is naturally a Virgo energy, even though it's the sign of Aquarius. So it's the future, technology, friendships, anything relating to your goals, and like really elevating. The 6th house energy is the energy of Virgo, and you're a Virgo rising. So having planets going through there is really reiterating like an energy that you're naturally kind of used to. And there may be just more of an emphasis right now in focusing on your schedule, getting your schedule organized, taking care of any busy work, anything pertaining to like reorganizing your schedule so you have more time for the things that you love, or being of service. Obviously, you'd be interested in astrology with all of those placements going through Aquarius right now, and Saturn coming into conjunction with Uranus. So it makes me feel like you could use astrology to better structure your life, have a better idea of how you can help people, how you can better manage your health, and also just kind of make sense of your daily routine. I think with Saturn coming into conjunction with Mars to your natal Uranus, I'm curious what you have realized you need to change in regards to your schedule, or transform, what you need to cut back on, where you're spending too much time doing something, where you're not eating well, where you're not taking care of your chores, things like that. So it's a really strong energy for everybody right now, because planets have been conjunct Saturn and square the nodes. But it's particularly intense for you because it's been in a square with your natal placement in Taurus. So there's a lot of like, what do I believe about what I can learn? What do I believe about how I can help the world? What do I believe about my friendships and my purpose and my reason for being here? And like what's, a lot of like philosophical things, because it's making squares to your 9th house. So it can make me, it makes me kind of wonder if you're kind of in a pivot right now where there's a sense of being like, how can I learn more about health and wellness and the mind, body, spirit balance? Or what tools do I need to actually develop? What do I need to learn that can be practical, that can really help apply to the future of me making money or anything pertaining to your values in general. Kind of cool, you know, you're born in 2000, so you were born with a Saturn-Uranus square. Now it's flipped, so now we've got Saturn in Aquarius square Uranus and Taurus. So you've got something kind of interesting happening where it's similar energy. It's just backwards. I remember 2000. I remember like the peak of, you know, what was going on with the internet and all that stuff, and kind of the .com boom and stuff that was happening when Saturn was in Aquarius and when Saturn was in Taurus and Uranus was in Aquarius when you were born. I remember that. So it's kind of flipped. So now I think it's interesting for like people who are your age. It's a lot of like, okay, what do we do with that? How are we adapting to where the world is going with money and resources? And how can I better organize and structure things so I'm prepared for some of those changes? Now, specifically, you just had your birthday, so happy belated birthday. Obviously, now you're 22 years old, so you're coming into an 11th house year. There is going to be an emphasis this year for you in anything pertaining to, let's see, I want to double check this, make sure it's 11th house. Yeah, 22. So you're going to be thinking a lot about your goals. You're going to be thinking a lot about reflecting on friendship goals, because the Lord is going to be the moon. So you want to pay attention to eclipses this year. So we've got eclipses coming up at the end of April going into May. And perhaps it can be almost like the beginning of you realizing that you have goals when it comes to friendships, collaborations, creativity, joining groups, being a part of groups. And your moon is in Capricorn in your 5th house. So something about that, about just like maturing in general when it comes to some of those goals, maybe taking some of your hobbies and trying to see if you can really turn them into something very legitimate later this year. That's pretty general overall. I guess the one other thing I would say is that you do have the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that's setting up for you in your 7th house. I think the fact that technically kind of in a sextile to your moon, you're losing it, is actually really positive for like romance, relationships, meeting people through friends. And equally, you also have the sextile on the other side that's funneling into your natal placements in Taurus. I wonder if you're making some changes in like your education plan. I'm wondering if you're thinking about traveling, and how that may open up the realm of like making new friends, meeting new people, and possibly new relationships that can come in. So hopefully that is helpful for you. I'm sure that this is going to be an interesting year with some of the eclipses that are coming, being that it's a moon-related year, and you have eclipses that are going to be making aspects to all of your natal Taurus and also your natal Aquarius placements. Prepare. Watch what starts happening and what starts changing for you there. It's almost like the 9th house is a very lucky house. It can deal a lot with just like your destiny unfolding in a way. So I'm curious to see how that's already kind of starting to open up for you. So we've got Amico. Let me go ahead and plug your information in. Okay, so there we go. March 28th, 1990. You guys have the same birthday, huh? 4:58. Is that AM or PM? Please let me know. I need to know that. And that was in Torrance. Let's see, so was that AM? Okay, perfect, thank you. You're welcome, Kelsey. AM. All right, so we've got you here, March 28th, 1990, 4:58 AM. And let me read your comment. I had a reading with you in January about these upcoming months after my birthday regarding my career. My question is, how can I use these energies in full advantage with my art to go off of to go off and work for myself because I still feel completely stuck, like I'm waiting around for inspo to spark. Making some work here and there, but nothing really that is moving me. I'm scared of letting whatever energy that's coming through pass me by without taking full advantage. I feel so unmotivated. Maybe my needle placements, but I just have doubt with my talent. Also wondering what you think about a trip to Costa Rica at the end of this month. Costa Rica is between my moon and ascendant and Saturn MC. I'd have to really look at it in terms of your... I'd have to look at it in terms of your like full astrocartography. Traveling in general, I mean, I'm looking at the fact that you've got a full moon eclipse that's going to be happening in mid-May. And you've got a Taurus eclipse that's getting ready to happen in your second house. So under the kind of the realm of travel in general, I would just say be mindful that whole sign Taurus is your third house. So it's going to be things like documents, paperwork, traveling, cars. Like there can be some things that can be a little eventful happening when it comes to traveling. I would say just a heads up, actually traveling sometime around mid-May looks probably a little dicey because that eclipse is going to be pretty close to your 9th house. But technically in your 8th, and it could just be expense-wise something that's like a little rattling. But the reason why you're wanting to travel is because you have Saturn and Mars and all these planets going through your 12th house that deals with like foreign places in general. So a couple things. I mean, I guess the positive news is like, listen, Saturn has already made its conjunction with your Venus when it comes to feeling inspired. And if you're feeling the lack of inspiration, the Saturn retrograde can very much bring that back to you. That's like, okay, now am I feeling inspired? Is it coming back? Have I done the work? A lot of Venus in the 12th is like waiting and sitting and waiting for inspiration. You already booked those dates. I mean, listen, just, traveling physically on an eclipse date. So that will be like April 30th and May 15th. Those make me a little dicey. Like me personally, that's just me, call me superstitious, but like I wouldn't want to be on an airplane. I'm always really cautious about doing anything really big during an eclipse like that, especially if it's happening in a house that's dealing specifically with foreign travel and airplanes. However, the eclipse you're going to be feeling early on. So you're feeling that eclipse, right now. So we're already starting to come into those energies, which is why you're like, well, I'm going somewhere. The issue that I have specifically is that the mid-May eclipse is going to be at like 25, 26 degrees of Scorpio, and it's going to square Saturn in Aquarius, which is in your 12th house. So I have concerns about going into a country, being in a place, getting stuck there, getting locked down, not knowing how to come back, being in a situation where it may not feel so pleasant. But at the same time, Saturn and Mars is basically saying to you, you got to go and get away. You got to be in hibernation mode. You feel like you need to kind of check out and like hide away from the world. So just make sure that if that's what you're doing, it's a place that you're going to feel comfortable, you're going to feel safe, even if it's unfamiliar, and that you're not really worried about any Venus-related things. Saturn conjunct your Venus with the square. Venus is the ruler of the 3rd. So I'm wondering, like, okay, if you rent a car, get insurance, be careful if you're driving. Don't take any valuables with you. Try to pack and travel light. I think anybody would tell you that if you're going to Costa Rica anyway. That's just my 2 cents. But I'm not saying this to kind of scare you. I think that Saturn going into the 12th house is really reiterating that it's time for you to go and do this so you can like go and be alone, so that way you can like develop inspiration. So in that sense, I think it's positive. I would just really be mindful of like a day on each side of the eclipse. So like, the 29th, the 30th, and the 1st of May, and then the 14th, 15th, 16th, the 29th, 30th, and then the 1st of May, and then it'll be the 14th, 15th, 16th of May. Yeah, not planning to drive, sure, good. Okay, cool. I would also say like Saturn going there makes me wonder if this is going to be also about like you going and making friends in another country, because Saturn rules your natal 11th. So something about that makes me feel like, that's good. I would say documenting with photos, pictures, visual, taking sketchbooks, things that you can use to really like make art if inspiration strikes. You're not missing anything at the moment. Like career stuff really opens up for you when you have a very strong Jupiter transit. Well, Jupiter is conjuncting Neptune, which means like you want to hide away from it all. You want to go and hang out by a pool, or you want to be out in nature and taking pictures and listening to music and like vibing out and being by the beach. So that way you can bring the inspiration back. And then I have a feeling when Jupiter comes into conjunction with your sun, you're going to be a little bit more refreshed and feeling like you're ready to go. So, you know, in my opinion, I mean, that's all getting ready to start up pretty quickly at the end of May, beginning of June. So I kind of look at this and go, you're not missing anything. This would be the time to go and do something like that. That way you can not get it out of your system, but have a little bit of just like relaxation so you can kind of get the vibes going again. From a whole sign perspective, your sun and your Mercury is in the second. So it can be this feeling of like, I need to be inspired before I sit down and initiate something new. And likely there will be all kinds of new art pieces, new things that you're creating, new things that you're drawing, painting, working with, sculpting. And it becomes really quick because Aries is fast. So it'll be like this sense of like inspiration hits you very quickly. And all of these things start kind of coming to you and you feel like you just have to sit down and just work through it. I mean, I think it's going to be a very busy period for you pretty much all of June. So yeah, great time to go and get this out of your system. By the time all these planets are getting into the later degrees of Aries, specifically like, you know, Venus, Mars, it'll be sextiling Saturn in your natal Venus. So that's why I say like take photos or anything that's going to be like inspirational. So when you bring it back, you can feel like you can actually take a look at what you saw, what you experienced, so you can make art. If you feel, yeah, I mean, that's not unusual. I mean, you know, Saturn coming into conjunction with Venus is like, yeah, it's like you, and that's not how things work. You have to let it flow, right? You know that, you're a Taurus moon. So if it's feeling forced right now with Saturn and Mars recently on your Venus, to me, that makes sense. But it's also representing your thought patterns where you're like, okay, I keep feeling and I'm telling myself internally, this feels forced. It doesn't feel like it's right. It doesn't feel like it's the right time. So if you're telling yourself that, that's going to kind of amplify, so to say. One thing I'll also tell you is just, you know, Uranus is coming into opposition with your Pluto. And that's the first opposition. And that's going to be happening for you pretty strongly June and July. And that's definitely going to like flip things very quickly, especially because that Pluto is like a Leo degree. So it's like about feeling inspired, about feeling creative, changing and working with different materials maybe. And just the way that you're communicating and talking about your creative process. You have to understand that your Venus is going to be a part of this very complex Uranus, Venus, Pluto T-square. So whatever you're dealing with Uranus and Venus and Pluto, it's almost like something has to be killed off or let go in order for some new kind of artistic inspiration, talent, opening that kind of happens. Whether it's like, oh, I don't want to make that kind of art anymore. Now I want to make this, or it manifests as you being like, okay, I was super brokenhearted over this person and I never got over it. And now I'm over it. And now the block has been removed. And now I'm feeling super open to just like a new way of self-expression. So yeah, if it's feeling forced, don't force it. I have a feeling that when Saturn goes retrograde and it's coming back into conjunction with your Venus, and you start actually receiving some trines from Mars, that this is going to get easier July, August on. And that's when you'll start experiencing the trines. I strongly have like this weird intuitive hit that part of what's going on, if you kind of like traveling and getting out and about, it may materialize as like you going other places and then come back and realize like, wow, there's a big world out there. I probably am open to relocating and going and being in another place, whether that's like temporarily or part-time, or you start thinking about, you know, just going to different places and just experiencing life and what life has to offer you. Because I think Saturn finds its joy in the 12th house. I know that sounds kind of twisted, but I mean, I think that, you know, the isolation and the kind of like the spiritual quest of like going and finding out, you know, how much you really like being on your own and you like being in a foreign place and you like meeting new people. And it's this very kind of hermity spiritual vibe. And oftentimes, when you go through this transit, when you come out of it, you will find that maybe you meet like other female artists who have all these different perspectives and ways of designing and creating and techniques. And then it's like by the time you're done with the Saturn-Venus conjunction, which is going to be, you know, the beginning of 2023, then it's shifting gears and Jupiter comes back and it sits on your sun. So I feel like it can be people that you collaborate with, people that you learn from, just a really great experience before you're really ready to, you know, come back out into the world again. And like Saturn's going to be there for a while. So you never know who you're going to meet and what opportunities may present themselves for you to be like, you know what, I'm going to stay here for 6 months. Could happen. Costa Rica has that effect on people, but other places as well. And the fact that your Venus is so heavily tied to also your point of fortune makes me feel like there's something there that is like you just happen to meet somebody, you become good friends, you learn more about a new language or a technique or something, and it's like, you know, something opens up there. Where's my Sabian symbol book? So 23, almost 24 of Aquarius. So I guess it would technically be 24. A man turning his back on his passions and teaching from experience. Oh, that doesn't sound familiar at all, does it? The theme is enlightenment, serenity. The symbol speaks to conversation or the type of sudden change that occurs when an individual becomes aware that his lifestyle is causing him unpleasant and unwanted consequences. It also speaks to the tendency of newly reformed, enlightened want to share the fruits of their experiences with others. A man turning his back on his passions and teaching from experiences emphasizes self-mastery and control over physical and emotional compulsions. On a practical level, it can apply to a recovering alcoholic, a born-again Christian, or a transcendental experience. At its highest, it represents wisdom gained through first-hand experience, and the accent is on enlightenment. You could be thinking about how you could give up one of your vices as a result of realizing it's taking you in the opposite direction of where you want to be. Your advantage lies in sharing the fruits of your interests and experiences with those who show interest in you and your journey. Yeah, these are like spooky accurate, huh? So that's for 24, which is really what applies to 23 and change. But just recently, I was talking a lot about this conjunction for 23 degrees of Aquarius, a big bear sitting down and waving its paws, achievement, mastery, demonstrating your abilities, guarding against showing off, and really focusing on having meaningful experiences before making art. Here's the deal, and this is just my 2 cents. Venus is what we're open to, right? It's what we open up to. It's not just art. I remember when Saturn was crossing my Venus, and I have a Saturn-ruled Venus as well. I just about gave up on astrology. I was like, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore, which is kind of a scary thing because it's been my life for like really the last 10 years. But when I went through that, I remember telling myself like, no, just stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. Don't let it go yet. You know, give yourself some space so you can breathe. And then if you're really in love with it, you'll fall back in love with it and it will come back to you by the time the Saturn-Venus transit is over. By giving myself space and not forcing it and going in other directions, which was still creative Venus, it ended up manifesting as me going back to it and then realizing that it wasn't that my heart wasn't in it. I was just burning myself out and I was losing touch of the need to put my own personal touch on it and to really see it not as like a magic trick, but more like, okay, this is something that's creative for me in nature. I need to be more creative in doing this. And then it changed everything and it really for the better. So I feel like if that's what you're going through right now, try to shift gears and try to connect with people who are making art and want to tell you their stories about how they learned that technique, where they have visited, who inspired them. Maybe they're going to show you a private gallery. Maybe they're going to show you things that they're writing. I feel like there's untapped potential because Venus rules your third house that is screaming. You're possibly going to consider writing a blog. Maybe it's going to be connected to like writing and traveling. Maybe you'll do something where you find that there's like a new technique of art that you can do on the fly, or you start noticing that you're walking around in a local area where they have a bunch of vendors and people who are selling in the neighborhood, third house, or people who are traveling and selling, and maybe you're meeting people who have traveled to the places that you're visiting and they're like, yeah, I've been all over the world and I create art and this is my life. Something about this I think will be very inspiring. Yeah, you want to make a YouTube channel for art and spirituality. I mean, third house is that. It's literally about channels, YouTube or a blog or a podcast or anything relating to commercial or television work. And then Taurus is art, right? And like, I have to tell you, the fact that you have, currently the Jupiter-Uranus transits in your whole sign third house, Jupiter will go there within about a year. So it could be pretty successful if that's something that you're really open to doing. But you'd have to get, I think, the experience of just throwing yourself into a couple different environments or a couple different cities or countries that you're unfamiliar with, to get the vibe and really see how you manage, and also how you can, create art while you're, in a car or on a train or anything like that. I see you like to travel in comfort because you have Taurus in the third. So this is usually somebody who likes long train rides, or they like, being in a traveling experience that's more luxurious, and there's food and there's comfort and it's pretty and it smells good and you can watch all of the scenery. So if you're like, oh, I'm not driving, okay, great, then maybe it's a matter of finding a really comfortable kind of chauffeured way of going places. Hire somebody locally who can take you on a drive all through the city throughout the day and show you all the scenes, or a bus ride or a tour or something like that. And if you're doing that and you're focusing on being comfortable because that's how you like to roll, then I think that will really enhance your experience and get you comfortable with taking longer, comfortable kind of trips, right? Very exciting. I think it's a great idea. I think it's good timing. I think, why not? If you're going to have Saturn in your 12th house for a hot minute, there's a lot to look forward to when Saturn crosses into Pisces. I'm not going to say whole sign, but when it crosses your ascendant, I have this feeling that you're going to be like the master, Neptune coming in conjunction with your sun and Saturn on your ascendant. And it'll be a couple of years of having this experience, learning more about filming, cameras. I think you're going to develop more of a love for photography. I mean, I say do it. Why not? I mean, life's really short. So if you've got some transits like this going on, do that. Know that the Mars retrograde later this year, as it goes retrograde, all through your fourth house, I have a feeling is going to be a bit colorful because it's a lot of wait, where am I going to be living? Am I going to be here? Am I going to be there? This feeling of being torn between two places and not really sure where you're going to end up. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that things are very changeable later this year. Try to stay flexible, You're very welcome. Exciting. You have to let me know. Tag me in your channel when you start doing that. That sounds like so much fun. I would love to do something like that. All right, so let's move on to Mary. Thank you for your patience. Mary is 4/4/1980. Everybody's birthdays, huh? Happy belated. 7:43 p.m. And that's in Murfreesboro, Illinois. Okay. Transits are supporting me, feeling inspired to write. I want to take it to the next level and submit work to publications and apply for fellowships. Are there dates this year that are auspicious for me to have success? Whether this is an application or self-published. Good question. All right, so let's see what's up. Anything relating to writing or getting support for fellowship. So that's definitely going to be like super mercurial, because both groups are ruled by Mercury in your chart, and writing and creativity is ruled by that as well. Well, you've got Jupiter and Neptune in opposition to your Saturn, so feeling inspired is definitely the case. You'd want to see like a really strong aspect maybe from your 7th house lord and your 11th house lord. So that would be like Mercury, Venus. Jupiter's already activated that. I would say applications and reaching out to groups. Where's the moon this day? I'm really liking doing this around April 21st. The moon's going to be in Capricorn. It's going to trine Uranus in the 7th. So you're asking for help. You're writing into people. Venus is conjunct Mercury. So it's aligning your 7th house of support and your 11th house of groups. Also just anything relating to art. You may find there can be some positive feedback that you're getting around the 26th through May 1st. I also wonder if Mercury going retrograde over your natal Venus could materialize as finding some like creative retreat or something where they want to welcome you to come in and work in a space where you're going to share space with other people. That would be like the 3rd week of May. Another option can be when Mars is getting into Taurus. Actually, I take that back. There could be like the Venus, Uranus trying to Saturn. So mid-June could be another time. But I'm actually really most curious about when Mars comes into conjunction with Uranus and it's trining Saturn, your natal Saturn, and it's sextiling Neptune. That can be a really interesting time, the end of July going into August, to just collaborate with like a group collective of people. I know I'm throwing like a bunch of different dates at you. But I definitely think that all of those could work. Another thing that I would say is that the sun is going to go into Virgo, and it's going to trine Pluto, and there will be a retrograde here. So also another time could be the end of September. But I say do it. The fact that Jupiter has activated your Mercury, I say also do it, because you've got Uranus sextile your Mercury. So people could show up very quickly. Look for like situations where they have like artist retreats, or you know, you write in and ask if they'd be willing to sponsor you or give you a scholarship, and you could go and stay somewhere for a week and be a part of a group or something like that. No, I wouldn't be worried about that. Really, I mean, what's most interesting is that you've got Jupiter and Neptune squaring your natal Neptune and opposing Saturn. So it's about you learning to believe in your own creative talents, not hiding away from working with other people, and be willing to dissolve any insecurities that you have in regards to your creative vision and talent. Changeable is the key word here. Changeable. And I think it could be great, because that Mars kind of coming into the mix makes me feel like you could get some support, and you could possibly even like get a lot of like constructive feedback, where it's like, if you're really serious about wanting to do this, once you put yourself around other people, let me tell you something, there is nothing more humbling than being around a bunch of other people who are really, really good at their you know, particular talent, right? So if you're a writer and you're around a bunch of like really successful writers, and it can be a little I think, scary, because there can be some issues with just being like, oh, am I going to be good enough? But I think it can be good for you, and it's pulling you out of your comfort zone, and it's throwing you into a situation where you're going to be around like-minded people who are going to challenge you, right? I think that's like some of my favorite things that I've ever done, is like going and being around some, you know, pretty reputable astrologers and kind of being thrown into the ring and listening to them talk, and also like, you know, kind of throwing my hat into the ring. And after a couple of times of going round and round with some of those people, you really kind of learn how to like stand your ground, you know? So I'd say do it. I think you're a little intimidated because Saturn's in opposition to your natal Mars. I wouldn't be worried about the Neptune opposed Saturn. I think you're more iffy about the idea of the Saturn opposed Mars and criticism and whether or not, you know, you could actually strike out and make it happen. But while Jupiter and Neptune are in opposition to your Saturn, that's really breaking down your Saturn and allowing you to come further into your creative self-expression. So I think it's really good. Definitely let me know if any of those dates play out. I think that can definitely be something that can happen for you, even if it's something that's down the road. And I would say even look, I mean, I know there's a lot of artists, like retreats and things that are out there that will offer sponsorships if you write in and if you ask them to support you going and being there, so you can have a creative space with like-minded people who you can, you know, collaborate with. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know what happens. All right, so we've got Wendy. Wendy, my dear. I get this question probably once a week. This is my favorite question. 7/13/65. And what time was that, Wendy? The time in the city, if I can get that. Thank you, Vera. I'll get you in just a second. So just a heads up, guys, probably the next 10 minutes we're going to call a final call. So if you want to get a reading, let me know. You know the drill: birthday, year, time, city, and your question. I think I have your info, Wendy. So if, oh, there you are. 3:34 a.m. Westminster. What? All right, so let's look at this. And here we go. 4/12/22. Wendy, I love how you make appointments and then you ask me. That's okay. That's all right. Wendy says she's got an appointment for some nice beauty enhancements on Tuesday, and also a trip planned for the weekend, and you want it to be fabulous. Well, guys, you're going to see my video come out tomorrow morning where I tell you all about the shit show of the full moon in Libra that's coming. So just a heads up, a word to the wise, it's going to be pretty gnarly. Yeah, especially for cardinal signs. So just a heads up, depending on where you're going and what you're doing. I'm not saying that you can't override that. I'm not scaring you. I'm just letting you know that this is going to be a very, very intense full moon, especially if you have any placements in Cancer or Capricorn or Aries or Libra, which you do. Actually, the full moon is going to slightly square your sun, Wendy, which is the ruler of the third house of vehicles and travel. It's also going to slightly square your moon, which is the ruler of your second house of money and resources. Oh, you're coming to Vegas. Nice. Make sure you wave when you come into town. I would say double and triple check a vehicle. If you're going with a friend, make sure it's not going to be drama. Don't forget your cell phone. Make sure you have a charger. Just you know, be prepared. A full moon in the fifth house, though, of gambling and resources and bars and one night stands, I mean, that sounds like Vegas to me. So why not? I'm more looking at the stuff pertaining to what's going on with your appointment. So the 12th, you've got the sun in a square to Pluto and your moon. The moon is your face. Beauty in general is going to be more like your second house lord, which is the moon. So the sun square moon is falling off. It's waning. So it's not going to be as rough. As long as you don't have like a really gnarly Mars square, you have Mars that's in a loose trine to your ascendant. And you've got Mars that's no longer in opposition to your natal placements. So you would have had issues if you've like done it like the last like 2 weeks. So I think it will be fine. I will tell you though, and you'll see this if you watch my video, I talk about Venus and how Venus is the Sun-Pluto midpoint. And you have Venus in Pisces, which is about fluids. And it is coming into both a trine with your natal Neptune and a square. I'm kind of neutral on this. I feel like moon opposed Venus, me personally, you may not always feel like you're getting the treatment or the care that you need. Like you might go in and be like, oh, the doctor wasn't like really accommodating, or they weren't friendly, or like the nurse was like aggressive, right? Like, so you might not really enjoy that experience of like going and doing that. Exalted Venus in Pisces, definitely a great time. I could have picked a better date for you to do this, but I understand you got to have your face looking fancy before you go to Vegas. My 2 cents, I'll just give you another transit that I think could or would be really good, would be when the moon is conjunct Pluto in a sextile to Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter. That's the 22nd. What day is that? I know that's after your trip, but if there's anybody listening who's like, oh, when do transits get a little bit better? So the 22nd looks good. Another time you could do it is like when the moon is between Mars and Venus on the 25th, which is a Monday. And then Venus is going to go into Aries, and I wouldn't mess with that. So it's not terrible. I just think with Venus in opposition to your moon, the way that liquids or injectables settle in your face, it might be nice to like do some herbal stuff. So I don't know about you, but like before I get any Botox or anything in my face, because my face has been completely, I gotta look good, guys, I'm on camera. I would say take arnica, because I get the impression that there can be lots of support taking something herbally, so you don't have bruising, or you feel like you don't have a reaction to something, and maybe you're not as sensitive, because Venus in opposition to the moon, you can be more sensitive than usual. So maybe take a couple arnica pills 2 days prior to going to your appointment, and then follow it up with arnica, so that way you're not bruising or whatever when you're going out of town for the weekend. Just my 2 cents. But traveling in general, the full moon in your 5th square the moon, and also your sun, is I would just say be careful with gambling, especially if you're going with another person who's egging you on and they're like, yeah, let's stay up all night, let's keep drinking and playing the slots. Like, you might regret it the next day. That's the only thing that I would say. But besides that, no, you're good. Especially now that you are out of the Saturn Venus conjunction, the Mars conjunctions. I can't tell you how many people were crying the blues when I basically was like, nobody has any business getting any surgical cosmetic procedures or getting your teeth fixed or getting Botox or injectables between like mid-December and March. And a lot of people did not listen to me. And I've had probably about a dozen clients that have circled in over the past month who told me about botched Botox, bad nose jobs, lopsided breast implants, infections. I mean, it's like no joke. So now that all these planets are going into Pisces, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Neptune, all this conjunction, Yeah, you can do a lot with filters on a camera. Like you're gonna see lots of crazy new filters come out, but fillers, liquid fillers in general, we're gonna see all different new developments, I think, in just like pharmaceuticals and cosmetic and beauty cosmetic stuff, and liquid fillers and derma fillers that are gonna be able to fill in all kinds of stuff in the body. It's gonna be pretty wild, so. Stephanie said, I'm getting Botox this month too and teeth whitening. Good, now that you're out of the Saturn Mars stuff. People were so angry that I was like, don't you do it. I kept telling them they were gonna have problems. Wendy, good luck in Vegas this week. Take a lucky charm bag with you or something. Let us know if you win big. We've got Kiara. And we've also got Stephanie. Kiara, so you're 18, huh? You just want a helicopter ride. Take him for all he's worth, Wendy. All right, so let's put in Kiara's info, 62604. All right. And that was at 9:22 p.m. And that's in Melrose Park, Illinois. Okay, so Kiara is a senior in high school, graduation next month, wants to know which direction to go in after high school, feels like she's not smart enough for college, and frequently puts herself down. No. Okay, so let's look at her chart in general before we look in the transits, because that's going to get you confused. So she's a Cap rising, Saturn's the ruler. She's got Saturn in Cancer, so she's got Saturn that is in a not so easy place to have Saturn. It's in her whole sign 7th. Placid is 6th, the sun is there, and the sun rules the 7th house. She's a little bit of like a mother hen. She's like a caretaker. Does she have an interest in nursing? Does that interest her at all? Has that come up? I would say nursing, working with like children, pediatric health, labor and delivery, anything related to hospitality. Like she would do really well with hospitality, especially if it's like cooking, catering, working with restaurants, especially because she's got Saturn there. So it tells me some kind of like management role. So if she were to be nursing, she would like want to, you know, be watching a floor or looking over a number of patients and like doing some kind of management. Her midheaven Scorpio, and part of what's going on right now is Uranus is in opposition to her midheaven. So to be honest with you, there's going to be lots of changes going on with like her home life, where she's living, her family. That's also going to play a role into like, well, where am I going with my career? Mars and Pluto rule her midheaven. Mars is in Leo in the 2nd, which is about defending, helping, or assisting other people. And she's got Pluto located in her natal 11th. The South Node of the 9th can have this feeling that's like, oh, I don't know if I really, you know, want to go to school or, you know, do this or do that. I would really caution her against the negative self-talk. She's got Mercury conjunct Saturn in Cancer. So it's kind of like this, oh, always me, like, you know, I'm not going to be good enough, kind of mentality. But her Saturn Mercury trines her midheaven. That's very strong. That's very serious, responsible. Mercury rules the 8th house of transformation, but health. I look at this and I'm like, she could work with people who are in hospice, people who are terminally ill. She could work at a facility or a center where they're treating or doing surgical procedures on sick children. and it would just be like bing, it would just like click for her, especially because she has Chiron on her ascendant. So that's kind of also symbolic of somebody who is a healer, right? Ruled by Saturn. Saturn goes back into her 6th house. Care, rehab in general, or rehabilitation. And she's also got Mercury, Saturn square her moon, and that's her mother. So it's about mom being like, no, you're going to get your shit together. You're going to figure it out. You're going to go to school. You're going to make the time. And really reiterating the importance of education. No, she hasn't said anything, but she did a good job helping a hospice caretaker at my home for a week. Yep. Yeah, she's like a little mother hen. And, you know, with that midheaven being in Scorpio, which deals with transition, transformation, it can be research. I feel like she would do very well working with people who are terminally ill, hospice, or like a surgical tech. She could go into x-ray stuff, or I think she would do really well as like a labor and delivery nurse, or she could, you know, maybe start there and see if she wants to maybe go the distance and be a pediatrician. People like this do very well with children. I've seen a lot of people who have like childcare centers, or not necessarily teachers, but I'm talking about younger people that you have to care for and take care of. Elderly though, because she's got Mercury, Saturn, which is how she's communicating with people who are older, is trining the midheaven. She's very patient. So I would say when she has a very strong Mars transit, that's going to materialize as her having a big change in her career. If she jumps into something too soon, the next 2 or 3 years, as Pluto comes into an opposition with her Mars, it could materialize as her being like, yeah, I would be working in care, but, you know, I don't make enough money being a hospice aide, so I would need to be a nurse. And she's going to kind of find herself in a situation where if she settles, she could back out of something that could be good for her if she doesn't really go the distance. So I would encourage her, don't just be somebody who's in like home care, become a nurse. You know, don't just do work involving health and wellness. If you don't want to actually physically work with people one-on-one, she could go into insurance, or she could work in organizing anything regarding burials. Actually, she could do that. She could go and work for like a mortuary or a funeral home, and working with families and organizing and taking care of burials, because she can handle that energy. She's very serious. Cancer is the energy of burials, by the way. So for her to have all those planets there, she could be a death midwife as well. That's something else that she could do. So usually Scorpio midheavens, they don't have a problem with dealing with like darker, more challenging jobs. And I think that she's got, you know, the makings of definitely being able to do that. And it just might take her a little bit longer to kind of figure it out. It's just also a matter of getting her consistent on a schedule. And to me, with all those planets in Cancer, she's very emotional and very empathic. And so she can work in environments where she can absorb stuff. So she also needs to be very mindful that there needs to be a lot of like awareness and balance, and of being emotionally good, and like not allowing things within her workspace to actually affect her. So when you're working around death, grief, people who are sick, you know, you need to be clearing that energy. It's important to be doing that. Otherwise it's gonna catch up with her. Does she have digestional issues? Does she have stomach problems? Have you noticed this? Has there been a lot of this going on with her recently? Sorry guys, he sounds like a little pig. He's recovering from surgery, so it's kind of hard to not have him around. Let me know, because I see some stuff in her chart that's been coming up with some real issues in regards to emotions and how it's affecting her stomach or her diet or her digestion. Yeah. Right now, she's got Pluto that's been conjunct her Chiron, and there's lots of anxiety about what does the future hold? What am I going to do? This little kid can get super trapped in anxiety and fear, and then has like the worst digestional and stomach problems. It would be really beneficial for her to, regularly do something that is cleansing. I think of like herbs or like treatments or things connected to Cancer would be like lemon water, having more lettuce, cucumbers, coconut, or eating, bread baked with coconut. Because I can see she likes like things that are rich, or she likes like sweets, or she likes like breads. And I would say that she can be very sensitive to some of those placements according to her astrology, or she may actually be allergic to some of them. That, and she's got, you know, some stuff going on with anxiety. If she's like integrating more of those foods that are ruled by Cancer, kind of staying away from the dairy and from like the heavy breads, she will start actually feeling better. And I also think that she may benefit from some kind of like fasting, where she's just not like eating emotionally all the time, or going through periods of eating and not eating. Try to get her to be drinking aloe as a digestion, and also taking like coconut water, not coconut milk out of a can, just coconut water. You don't need to have pulp or anything, any added sugar in it, but that'll be really helpful for her. And her finding a way to better balance her energy and like relax, taking baths, soaking in, you know, water, things like that, staying hydrated, it'll be really helpful for her. Hopefully that's helpful. Tell her to stay positive. And you know what? I really feel like before we send our kids off to years of college and possibly go to school for things that they end up hating, you know, encourage her if she doesn't know what she wants to do, to focus on getting her general ed out of the way. And if she really is interested in hospice, go and have her volunteer. She can go and volunteer for a month or two, see if she likes it. She might go, woof, this is not for me. And she can go the direction of sales, or she can go the direction of insurance and still work with one of these types of kind of like, you know, occupations. What was the name of the pill you talked about for natural health before Botox or filler? You want to take arnica. So anytime you're getting injections, or it's really good for bruising in general, or like muscle soreness, you can take arnica capsules. I always take them like 2 or 3 days before I get any injections, and I generally don't bruise as bad, but I bruise pretty badly. Hope you pass that along to her. Tell her congratulations on graduating, especially in the midst of what's been the end of the world. That's a big accomplishment. It's really hard for those kids. I feel bad for those kids because they were like robbed of prom and all kinds of normal teenage things. So she did it. 7/3/1993. (2:22 p.m. and that was in Montclair, California. Here we go. July 3rd, 93. Okay. Hello. Do you see anything major for me? Trying to stay busy building my astrology stuff to launch eventually, build an astrology t-shirt business, and try to trade stock options in the market to quit my 8 to 5 and find a better paying job. My mom's health, home, car problems, life is chaotic. Please. Thank you so much. I love your course. Thank you for joining. The Sabian symbol book is a screen of prophecy. If you guys click my links somewhere on my channel, I don't know where it is, but I have an Amazon link that has all of the books that I use. And yeah, I would say check it out. Okay, so let's take a look again. So this is for Stephanie. And yeah, we called final call, guys. So we're going to wrap it up after this. Anything that jumps out at me. I mean, so starting a tarot business, astrology business, and shirts, and you're trading, and you're doing all that fun stuff. Good on you. Libra rising, 29 degrees. You are coming into your Saturn's return in the beginning of next year, also 29 degrees. And you have Mercury at 28 degrees. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, your midheaven's Leo, ruled by the sun. The sun's in the 9th in opposition to the moon. So you're super into like philosophical topics, you know, continuing education, being able to keep learning as you go through your life and growing. I see a lot of people with sun in the 9th house, especially in Cancer, who do some kind of like intuitive teaching, education at some point. Like that might be something that you do, or you might publish something or print something. Printing clothes is interesting because Cancer is clothes. I think that you'd have to learn a little bit more about importing and exporting with the sun being in the 9th house, just like knowing where your products are coming from. That seems to be really important. And it's interesting because you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart and you also have quite a bit of Cancer. The sun and Mercury, it's prominent. And both of those signs are intercepted, which we'll talk about in class, don't worry. Interceptions are essentially when, according to like Placidus, like a sign gets swallowed up, right? So consider it like your blind spot. So if this were whole sign, it would be like, you know, okay, you're a Libra rising and Capricorn's your 4th house and you've got Moon, Neptune, Uranus in the 4th house. And there's something to be said about that. I'm sure those could apply. Definitely like your upbringing was a little unusual. And there is some sense of just always kind of reflecting on the past or your intuition. But I think that when we throw it into the Placidus 3rd house, it could be more like you're really interested in reading about mysticism and anything relating to fortune and predictions and, you know, anything relating to communicating and divinatory systems or maybe even cards or even astrology. I actually have the same placements. I'm a Libra rising too, and I have the same placements. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all in the 4th house. I think that for you though, the path forward makes me feel like what's really going to stick is when you either start teaching or writing or publishing in regards to some of this stuff. And that's not me. I'm not trying to kind of say like, no, you can't do it. You can very much do the clothing because it's going to be printing and screening clothing. So that could be the sun in the 9th. I would say because your Saturn is it's so Saturnian at 29 of Aquarius that you may feel like it's really going to take to the other side of your Saturn's return until you really set all of this stuff up, right? And I think that you personally, with your sun in opposition to Neptune, Neptune's the ruler of your 5th, so it's where you feel inspired. There is this feeling of like there's fluctuations. The 3rd house and the 9th house is very changeable. The 3rd house is busy. Like I know about this and I read this and I study this and I do that. But the 10th house, the 9th house is like, okay, but this is what I believe in, right? This is what I believe in. So there's a little bit of like sampling things. There's been some sampling, different lectures, courses, books, teachers the last couple of years. And somewhere around 33, when you come into annual perfection, year 10, is I think when it's going to set up a little bit more. That's what I think. I feel like if your love for astrology is as strong as your chart says it is, you may eventually end up teaching and you may eventually end up like writing about it. I think that's what you might end up doing. That might be more when like Uranus is, you know, going through Gemini and it's in the late degrees of Gemini, trining your ascendant and your Saturn, right? I like that. I'm your astrology teacher. My progressed moon is on your sun in the 9th house. So really cool. I like that. And your point of fortune is my point of fortune. We have a lot in common. But I mean, what can I say about home, family, chaos? I mean, it's kind of part of the course. You have the Saturn, Mars, Venus setup that's going on in the 9th house. It's bringing up karmic situations where you're put in a situation where you have no choice but to kind of really do the deep emotional digging and show up for your roots, your clan, your family, because there's some kind of like obligation going on right now to the family, which feels very trying. It's especially challenging because it's in a square to your natal Pluto and the South Node is there. So like, ooh, girl, sending you lots of good vibes through these transits. When you come out the other side of this, it's not going to be just Saturn conjunct Saturn. You'll be done with Saturn square Pluto. You'll be done with Saturn square your Venus. And I'm just curious if something that keeps coming up for you over and over and over is that you're like, fuck, I wish I had support. I wish I had a partner to help me through this. I wish I had someone. Because that's what I keep seeing in your chart. Because of the really intense square from Saturn in the 4th of family responsibility to Pluto in the 1st house, having meltdowns, to Venus in the 7th house, where you're like, where is my rock? And I'm going to tell you something. Pluto's coming for your IC. Whole sign, it's going to be there next spring. Maybe you have until 2024 when Pluto fully crosses into your 4th house. That will be marked with a profound change in your life and really moving away and, you know, clearing something out, revolving around whether or not you still feel like you have to maintain a somewhat not balanced relationship with a family member. Yeah, I can see that. You know, that's single mom, Uranus, Neptune, moon in the 4th, and, you know, you having to be the parent. But what you're going to realize just through the transits, I'm not judging you, but you're going to realize as soon as Pluto shows up, you're going to be like, okay, if I'm constantly running around and I'm taking care of family members who aren't taking care of themselves, and I'm not prioritizing moving forward in my relationships and doing what's best for me, you're going to be like, I don't stand a shot in hell in ever really being able to start my life and having a relationship and like doing my own thing. So I'm just giving you that heads up now, especially when Pluto hits 29 degrees. This will be March of next year. My eyes get really big looking at that because Venus was going retrograde conjunct Pluto there. Mercury went retrograde conjunct Pluto there. It all squared your ascendant and your descendant, and it feels a little like a crisis. That's like, I don't know how much longer I can deal with what's going on with my family. Technically, it's in your 3rd house, so it's about running errands, going back and forth, stressful phone calls, and feeling like you're not getting support that you need from aunts, uncles, cousins. Oh, so you put them aside. That's what was supposed to happen after the Venus retrograde. Good. I'm not saying abandon them. I'm just saying, like, this is a chart where I like look at this and I go, well, if what you really want is the North Node in your 7th house, you had an eclipse there. You're going to have another one. And you're going to see that when the second eclipse comes in mid-May, that's going to square Saturn. It's going to be you going like, I really need to focus on creating my own inner world and stability and kind of like serenity, so I can start holding space for the family that I hope to create or the partner I hope to bring in. It will come, don't worry. You got some good transits, but Pluto's going to kick your ass all over town before that. And I would just say start learning about Pluto transit your IC. I think I would also just give you a heads up if you're doing any kind of like divinatory things, if you're like doing astrology or if you're reading tarot cards or whatever you're doing. When Pluto crossed my IC, the apartment that I was living in was haunted. Maybe you've heard me talk about this. And I literally saw like weird dog toys and like stuffed animals like levitate and just like all kinds of crazy shit in that house. Anyway, Pluto entering into your IC at 29 is the most psychic. 29 degrees is Sabian symbol, the screen of prophecy. It talks about a woman looking beyond the veil. That's what I named my business after. As soon as Pluto crosses in there, you're probably going to start having really intense psychic phenomena type experiences where deceased relatives will come visit you. Somebody may die, touch wood, and that may be the marker of this transit. And you just start really noticing like you're just getting hit with all this psychic energy because it's on your IC at 29. It's going to square your ascendant and your descendant. And you want to be careful not to get really obsessive and fixated about the past. And it would not surprise me if like deceased older female relatives on your mom's side start hanging around. And like you'll go and see a psychic and they'll be like talking to you about their grandma or something. Yeah, so there's going to be some weird stuff that's going to start happening. So just a heads up, just so you're prepared. But I think for the most part, I'm loving that Pluto's still trining your chart ruler. That's super powerful. That tells me there's a lot of power in writing, channeling, reading, learning more about mysticism, the occult. And it's really going to help strengthen things. This is a chart that has a great deal of potential, more than a great deal of potential. It's just going to take some time for this to unfold. And think long-term about what the goal is beyond just being like, okay, it's astrology, because this is a chart that really will be publishing, teaching, writing, creating, sharing, especially because your sun is at an 11, the dispositor is the moon's in the 3rd house. So something about teaching and publishing is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And when Jupiter comes into the square, you're going to start seeing very clearly briefly this year. It'll be more the beginning of next year. I'm not telling you when to launch your business, but you want to do it when you have a very positive trine to your sun or your moon. It could go either way. And I'm liking, you know, like new fresh starts. You want to give it until 33 to fully develop, but the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happening in your 5th house is self-employment. I don't know if you're going to get a lot of clients coming in until closer to spring of next year. So doing something supplementary, you know, you're saying trading, awesome. That's, you know, the Saturn-Uranus squares. It's going to be a combination of everything. But long-term wise, I want to make sure that you learn and that you keep learning. You don't stop. So that way you can really fully kind of develop your philosophy and your belief system. So when the time comes for you to start teaching or doing retreat work or publishing or what have you, you're a well-rounded teacher. But yeah, there's a great deal of potential here. I'm really excited to see what this turns into within the next couple of years. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you for joining my class. Those of you guys who missed it, don't worry. We are in the process of, once we're finished, we're gonna take everything, edit it down, create something that can be sold so people can study at their own pace. Looks like Brandon snuck in there. He'll be the last one for me tonight. So let's take a look here. June 3rd, 97. What's up, Brandon? 3:55 a.m. Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Georgia. Just kidding. A.m. Columbus, Georgia. Here we go. All right. So Brandon says, is April 23rd onward a good time for me to begin this energy training healing course? April 23rd onward. Got to keep you on your toes, Brandon. Okay, so energy healing, Saturn. I mean, I'm loving the fact that the moon is crossing over Jupiter, Saturn, so it makes me feel like you really know you're not going to be ready until then. Education for you is always going to have some connections to Jupiter. So I don't know if it's like you feel like you have to wait to connect and like actually commit to the course around that time, but I'm liking that the moon goes into your 11th house, conjunct Uranus, energy groups. It's going to trine your sun. I would tell you that a very strong Jupiter period or conjunction can be a wonderful time for you to start something. I think what's really interesting is that Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter all align in your 12th house, very spiritual, mystic, connecting. Your 2nd house, so you're investing in it. It's connecting your 9th house of education and working with other people. I'm curious if it's going to be something that you commit to between the 23rd and the 27th. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting looking at this. I think it's great because, not to sound hokey, but I mean, dude, come on. Neptune, Jupiter, Venus, and the moon on your south node. That tells me that you're going to unlock all kinds of information from your past life, and it may integrate past life regression, you know, shamanic healing, accessing the Akashic records, being able to tap into past lives where you were, you know, a mage, or you were a priestess, or you were a priest, or you were, you know, a shamanic healer. I mean, like, at the very least, you got to let me know what happens on the 26th, because it's very karmic. It's south node. So it's like, okay, here I am. Like, I'm going to start having flashbacks of my life in Atlantis when I was like doing all of this crazy stuff. Like, that's kind of stuff that could start happening, you know? And Uranus on your moon, which is like tapping into your intuition and learning how to really feel that physically in the body, or how you can use energy to work with the body as it's sextiling all the planets in your 12th house and it's working on a spiritual realm. Need I say more? If you can financially swing it, I say do it. Why not? These are really good transits to do this type of work. On top of all of that, this is also, while the North Node is conjunct your Mercury, in the 2nd house, whole sign, ruler of the 6th house whole sign, which tells me they may integrate plants, medicine, crystals, earth, properties just in general as a means to healing the body, working with the body. There may be water elements too, but they may be using the element of earth as like the conductors to actually do work on the body. I think it's great. I really do. I think it's a good idea. And you're never going to get this conjunction again on your South Node. That in itself is enough for me to be like, dude, the weirder, the better. Anything that you can do that's going to be really helping you channel and access all of this South Node goodies. I mean, you might meet somebody. You may not be looking for that, but Venus, Neptune, Jupiter is like, are you going to meet some person in this course who is going to be like a lover from a past life? And it's like this, like, temptress, sorceress, like high priestess type energy, like there's something to that. There is something majorly to that. I know you're not looking for it, but it is setting up on your South Node, and it is going to square your natal Venus, which tells me at the very least somebody comes in that you have a soul contract with, and you're here to like learn something and like work something out in this lifetime. And it may be very spiritual and whimsical and kind of like really out there. Like they're going to be talking to you about working on like other, like way out there in the ethers. Let's just put it that way, and like talking to fucking aliens and stuff or ascended masters or channeling things. I mean, yeah, do it. I say do it. Because that triple conjunction on your South Node is enough for me. But there's clearly a very powerful like priestess energy involved here. So yeah, do it. Let me know how it goes. It may involve plant medicine. Looking at this, it's not just going to be healing. There's going to be some other integration of something else that's going to come under the guise of this. So, just careful with drinking that Kool-Aid there, Brandon. Let me know how it goes. I'm really excited to see how that plays out for you. Hopefully that is helpful. Definitely do it while you're in these transits. I think it's wonderful to do it prior to June, because at that point in time you could be like, my schedule's changing, I'm moving, I'm traveling. You got DMT too. Yeah, those are some blast off transits with Neptune and Jupiter and Venus on your South Node. Just make sure that you don't have any spiritual honeys snatching your wallet. Just be careful. Those are some very culty transits. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Like I said, just a reminder, next week, I'm not going to be here on Saturday. I'm going to be here on Friday. I'll put it in the community section. I know it's tough out there. Next weekend is going to be totally fucking crazy because of the full moon. Don't worry, I got you. I've got a 90-minute video coming out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I talk about all the astrology of this week on Astro Weather. We're going to talk about the full moon, why I don't think it's as sweet and relationship oriented, probably as most astrologers will. I talk all about the midpoints and why I think this is going to be one that's going to have everybody blow their tops. And I'm so glad that I'm not working next weekend, because I looked at this and went, nope, not this week, Sky Daddy. Otherwise, besides that, if you guys like my channel, you want to donate, or if you want to become a member, please do check out my links below. You can also support me by commenting or liking or sharing. That helps get this into the queue and get other people to see my videos. And if you want to book a reading with me, check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I've got openings in May. Eclipses are coming. Things are a little wild. So if you happen to have a birthday coming up and you want to get on my books, please do book something. I would love to work with you. Like I said, we're going to have astrology 101 courses coming hopefully in the next month or two. So if you missed it, if you didn't get to study with me, don't worry, you're still going to be able to take my course. It's affordable, and it's going to teach you everything that you need for beginners astrology, everything from software to the techniques, and all about the planets and the archetypes if you want to read the charts the way that I do. And I'm going to be doing a tarot class. I'm very excited for that. A lot of people have asked about it. But what do you think? Do you have other things that you have questions about, or content ideas that you want me to make? I'm always happy to do that for you guys. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a happy Saturday. Have a happy week ahead, and watch that video tomorrow so you know what's going down for the full moon in Libra. Otherwise, take care, guys. See you soon.